Tracy Wright. How
Hey,
are
what's
you
up,
doing
Larry?
this evening?
Hey, I'm doing good. Good. It's a nice Friday
Hey,
afternoon.
welcome to the program, Tracy.
Thank you, Larry.
We we want to let the public know who Tracy Wright is. Those who may not know who you are,
Mhm.
especially being a two-time winner of the May 24th Marathon Derby. You won it in 1990, and you
Uh,
came back 8 years later. I don't know what you did in between. We're gonna find out, or at least you can share. And you won it for a second time in 1998. So
mm,
again, congratulations on those two victories.
Thank you.
A lot of people, and even myself, at that time, prior to your first victory, you seemed to fly under the radar. Um, and so we wanted to let the public know who Tracy Wright is. So tell us a little bit about you, your background in terms of like what school you went, primary school, high school. Give us a little historical perspective.
Well, I guess I could say it started back in primary school when I started running first. I used to represent Santa Glebe um, Primary School for the cross country. I was never really a speed person. I more as endurance distance runner. And that's where it started. I started Santa Glebe. I was on the school cross country team. And then I went from there, I went to Worksack. And at Worksack, I also was on the cross country team. I guess I carried it on from Serpentine League. And yeah, I never considered myself considered to be fast. I was just on the team and pretty much blended in. I had some good results. I don't think I've ever actually come first representing the school or anything. I was probably in the top five, six, something like that. But still, I never considered myself as a top runner back then. Um, Later on, I got into cycling.
Right.
Um, they used to
Just
have,
before you go to cycling, who spotted the talent in you at school? Like a coach, it was someone a PE teacher?
I would say, I guess the PE teacher I can't remember my PE teacher was at Santa Glebe, but who was it? Jeez, yeah, Seymour, Mr. Seymour. He was the PE coach, PE teacher at Worksack. The football player.
Mr. Seymour?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he used to play for PHC back then.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but
So
he also he
he spotted your
selected
talent.
me. Yes. Well, I was just I guess in the school events I used to place well. So whoever placed well, you got to represent the school.
And what distances did you compete in back then? You remember?
I it was just whatever the course was. It was probably about a 10, I would say less about 5 miles, I guess, for school children back
Sure.
then. Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. I was thinking of, you know what? I was thinking of like school sports, like had to compete in the 800 and 1500 and
No,
stuff
I
like
was
that.
never a track runner. I was never a track runner. Like I said, the only thing I competed in was cross country. I never ran track. I
Okay.
never ran on the grid, anything like that.
And like you said, you had some very good and impressive results. So then, so when did cycling start? Did cycling start while you're still in high school or afterwards?
Well, I believe I was started in high school, like the first couple of years, the first year in high school. The
Cycling.
mother, yeah, they used to have the races on the base, in Southampton. And
Yes.
one of my friends told me, hey, let's go do this race there, and that's where it started. And we went for the first race, and he showed up. We both showed up for the first race, and I felt that I was pretty good. And I was
What
asked
kind
to,
of bikes did you have back then? You
ha
you didn't have
ha,
these Cannondales
no, no,
of today.
I had a steel frame bike, chrome forks, chrome rims. It wasn't about light or how it was about show, like it was a show bike.
Yeah.
The chrome
And
forks, right? My chrome forks weigh more than these bikes that you get today.
I'm
You know,
sure.
yeah.
Any pictures that people take? Do you have any pictures in your
I've got a
archives?
picture, but I wouldn't want to show you. Back then, we didn't wear helmets. We were these leather strap things on our heads for when you
Yes.
raced anyway. And
Yes.
yeah, I had this tight suit. I started riding for Bike World back then. It
Okay.
was Keeble Hart, Bike World. He had asked me to
Yes.
ride for the team.
Buenos Aires. Remember he in
Uh,
Buenos Aires.
no, it was Bike World at first. And then
Okay.
after I later went to Buenos Aires. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I knew him when he had Buenos Aires on Church Street there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it
Okay.
used to be, I think the Imperial Hotel building was where it's
Uh,
a commercial building now next to Gibbons Company.
yes.
Yeah, he had
Okay.
a
Okay. I
shop.
remember. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember his shop used to be on Reach Street, I believe, right there by
Okay.
where the dance school is or something right there. The shop
Okay.
used to be there.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Bike World. Then
Opposite
they
the
moved up
Spot
to Coach. Then
Restaurant.
they moved to Coach Street. Yeah,
Okay. Awesome.
yeah.
So you started out with, like I said, you competed for the school running cross country, and
Hmm.
then you transitioned into cycling. Did
Yes.
did you do both?
No. Well, yes, I did. I was still cycling, just for fun. Um,
Okay.
and then, yeah, I was representing the school in different events. Um, then later on, I basically stopped running altogether.
Did you?
Yeah, yeah, I had stopped for a few years. Um, I tell you what got me back into running was when I was 20, probably my 20s, I had a bad
Okay.
accident on my bike and I actually messed up my knee.
On your
And
paddle cycle
no, this is on a
or
motorbike,
motorcycle?
motorcycle. Yeah, I had a bad
Okay.
accident. And I'll tell you the story. Really, the doctor on call that day when I went to hospital, they was going to cut my leg off at the knee. Yeah,
They were going to
so
do what?
they was going to cut my leg off.
Amputate
This
your leg.
Yes, well,
Wow.
from my knee down, because they didn't
Wow.
know how to repair it. Um, my auntie knew Dr. James. He was a neurosurgeon, and she gave
Okay.
him a call, and he came to the hospital, and he put my leg back together. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah, so that's a story in itself.
Wow.
So and from there, I had to do other things to get
Rehab.
myself rehab. Yes, so I
Yeah.
started riding a little mountain bike type thing, and from
Yes.
there, just progressed from a mountain bike
So
to
this is your early 20s now we're talking.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. As a result of rehabbing your knee, now
yeah,
you're out there on the bike. You're starting to
yeah,
feel good about yourself. Your knee is feeling better, I would imagine.
yes. So yeah, so progress to that. And I still wasn't running yet. So
Okay.
I was
Interesting.
actually later. I was actually working in a hotel around there too. So
Okay.
I was working Hamilton Princess, and
Yes.
we had some runners that worked at Hamilton Princess, and they wanted to put a team
Yes.
together. And I don't know if you remember the
Uh,
Snickers relay,
uh, Not quite, but you put a team of for a running race together.
a running race. Yes, yes,
Okay.
relay
Tell us
race, a
about
relay
that.
race. Yeah. So I uh, I was on the team.
Yeah.
Well, they put a team together, and they asked me would I run a leg. I said, yeah, I'll do a leg, and I entered that. That's my first run for since school, and since leaving school. So we put a team together, and I had the last leg. So the
Yes.
guys that were running were pretty
Probably the
good.
longest leg too. That would imagine. Normally the
Yeah,
last leg is the
they
longest
put me on
leg.
the longest leg just because I was a
Yeah.
cyclist.
Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up doing it, and that's what really got me back into running was that I did that leg, and there was guys that were been running for a while, like Jeremy Ball, can't remember all the guys, but Eddie
Sure.
Fisher, and
Yes.
yes. So I actually passed them along the way to the finish line, and guys were like, "Wow, you got something,"
Yeah.
and
Hidden
yeah,
talent.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We interviewed Jennifer, formerly Jennifer B, and now Jennifer Sterling. Similar
yes,
story.
yeah,
All this talent, but no one had actually seen it.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
here you
yeah.
are using your cycling talents
Yes,
to now also be part of a relay team
yeah, yeah.
and doing extremely well running.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically, I tell you the truth, I basically gave up the bike after that, and I concentrated on running. So I
So
started
you
doing
was
leg
you was on
races.
an emotional high.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I said, wow,
So
I beat this guy, I beat that guy. I'm got something here.
and they were, we call them heavy hitters at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They were the
elite sort
top
of
runners.
elite runners.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of them, like some were school teachers and stuff like that. And they
sure.
used to run as recreational runners, but they
Yeah,
were, yeah. I guess we call our
but
locals elite.
they were household names that when it came to
Yes.
sort of the road running scene. So
Yeah.
now you now enthrust yourself into the road running scene out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't actually beat everybody that day, but the guys that I did pass, and I was like, well, got something here. It's something.
They were notable names.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's what then launched your running career towards leading up to May 24th and then the participation, because we're going to talk about your May 24th victories.
Yes.
Certainly tonight for sure. But
Yeah.
just, we just like the public to know who is Tracy Wright,
Mhm.
and we know my Steve Burgess and I, we used to, when you won May 24th the first time and then the second time, we said, hey, Tracy Wright, he's got the right stuff.
Yeah.
Who's this guy coming off a bike
Yeah,
and winning May
yeah.
24th? It just doesn't happen. So
Mhm.
we definitely want to, going to let the public hear about your experience as far as May 24th is concerned.
Yeah.
So that relay race, the leg you did. So then what? So after that, what, you started to train? Tell us about it. Activated your running career. So what, you got on a running program? What took place right after
No,
that?
you know what? Man, Larry, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've never really been on a running program. I just used to like to run. I was working in the early stages. I was just working in a hotel, and back then, like how some of us were taken off the road for some reason.
Oh, lose your
I
license.
had lost my license.
Okay.
And I was actually used the paddle bike to ride work. And I used to stay in Southampton
Oh,
and had to ride
now
down
the
to
truth is
Sunset.
coming.
So that was part of my training. And being hotel worker, shift work. So I
Yes.
used to ride work. And if I had the late shift, you work from 6 to 1 or to 10, or depending on what shift you had.
Yeah.
I used to knock off at 1 o'clock and ride home, put on my running shoes, and run from Rail Bay to Rangers and back. That
At
was
1 o'clock
leading
in
up
the
to May
afternoon,
24th. No, 1 o'clock in the
in,
morning.
in the morning.
In the morning.
We want you to hold it right there. And then when we come back from this message break, we're gonna pick up our conversation from that point as we head towards your participation and winning May 24th in 1990. We'll be right back.
Healthy people in healthy communities.
Listen up and be aware of what that means. Noise-induced hearing loss can be prevented. Turn down the volume. Avoid dancing near speakers. Alternate a noisy activity with a quiet one to give your ears a rest. And remember, hearing loss is permanent. It can be prevented but not treated. So protect your hearing and keep on listening. This is a message from the Department of Health.
Welcome back. And we are here talking with Tracy Wright, the two-time May 24th of May champion winning in 1990, then coming back after an 8-year absence to win again in 1998. So let's pick up from where we were left off, Tracy. You mentioned about losing your license and then working shift work, and then running at some crazy hour in the morning.
Yeah, like I said,
as you're using as training.
yeah, because I was also running road races back then. They had the race series and stuff like that. And I was working, like I said, work Princess. Also on the Sundays, I'll run a road race, something like that. I really got the bug, to run. And I was doing pretty good. And I believe, thinking back, I think my boss gave me time on Sundays, gave me the day off on Sundays to actually run these races. So he'll put the schedule where I can have the Sundays off. And
So you had some. Now, had you been coming last, I'm not sure if you would have been so generous. But the fact that you had success.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, because this is something I never know. So prior to you winning May 24th, 1990, had you competed in May 24th prior to you winning?
Yes, I did. I think I did maybe two or three May 24th before that.
Before you won?
I neither win. I had
No,
run,
no.
yes, but
Before you won, what
yes.
did you place? What did you place? You remember?
That was sort of like I would say like a build up because I was placing in the top 10.
Okay.
I was in top 10, but I wasn't noticed at that time because May 24th, you only remember the person that wins the race.
Oh, for real.
So I was in the top 10, I would say, and every from that point, from the first May 24th, I noticed I was slowly moving up, up the field.
Right. And at that
And
time, before your victory, I don't mean to cut you off. Before your victory, who did you perceive as your main competitors? Kevin Smith, was he? I don't think he was out yet. But Mike Watson was out. Tony
Yeah.
Ryan was
Tony
out
Ryan,
and winning.
yes.
Earl Cormack, another name.
Yeah.
He snuck in there for a victory. Brett Ferguson. So who were your main rivals at that time that you recall prior to your win, your maiden victory, your first
Well,
victory?
leading up to this first years, it was trial and error. I got fairly Jeremy Ball was one of my guys I used to run with. So I guess every race I selected somebody. If somebody beat me the race before, I would try to beat them the next race. So that was my
Okay.
goal, to beat them. And I slowly, every time, it worked, and I would pass that person. And then I'll select somebody else who I knew was a little faster than me, and that would be my next goal, to beat them. I
Interesting.
wouldn't tell them, but that was how I did it. And then, like I said, May 24th was like I think Jeremy Ball beat me the year before, and he beat me on Queen Street going up the hill. So that next year it was all hill work, burnt house,
Interesting.
every hill. I trained
You was
to-
intrinsically motivated after
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And if you remember the race, I'm going to jump right to the race, but remember May 24th, I had did some surges along the course, and that
Right.
was all
So
through
you're talking now about the race that you won, 1990?
1990. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because I think that was a very exciting race.
Yes. Yeah. I guess it was for everybody. Yeah. So my goal, I tell you the truth, the night before, which I
Yes.
told some people, I actually dreamt that I was going to win the race, and I did
Good.
dream that I was going to.
Your dream
beat
came
them.
true.
Yeah, I dreamed that I
Yeah.
was going to beat him on the hill. And I got up, and I got to the race. I wasn't feeling 100% at the start because you had Terrence Armstrong, you had Mike Watson, you had
He-
Correa. It was a strong
That's right,
field.
Tony Correa, who
Tony Correa,
who was impressive for a period of time when he worked on the island.
Yes, and it was the other Portuguese man. I can't remember who he was.
Did you fear anybody or not really?
I never really feared anybody. When I entered the race, I was there mainly to compete. I was to compete, to do my best.
Yes.
I've never actually entered a race about, oh, he's going to beat me, whatever. When I entered races, it was like, okay, I'm going to do my best. If I could stay with this person for so long, I will. If I could beat him, I will. But I've never been a person that went to a race like, okay, his been an order race, I can't beat him. But I'll say I'm
Sure.
going to stay with him as long as I can.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what happened. 1990. I ran off the group, and well, I tell you, my goal was to try and attack on most of the hills.
Okay.
I think the first one was Fort Scholar. I attacked on
Right.
the hill.
So your
And-
mindset was to stay in the pack and then challenge them on the heels.
Yeah, my mindset was to make them work.
Okay.
To make them work.
Okay.
If they wanted to beat me that year, they're gonna have to work for it.
Yes. Especially after the rigorous hill training that you had embarked on leading up to it.
Yeah, and I was not only on the course, I was actually running on the beach. I remember Kilimanjaro on Horseshoe. I was in heel work there, doing repeats.
That's a tough cookie for training.
Yeah. And like I said, I was also, I tell you the truth, I think 19, I was working 2 jobs at the time. I had just started working with government.
Yes.
And I started in 88 in government. Yeah, I was working government and working in the hotel. So I was doing like double shifts. And in between, I was also training. So my body was used to pain. And
For
and
real.
that, May 24th is pain. If you want to win, it's gonna be some pain involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that race. There was Mike Watson and Terrence Armstrong. They were probably the pre-race favorites. So you were unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk us through. Take us through the race.
Yeah, well, like I said, on the beginning stages, I said I was going to attack the hills. I attacked Skull. I attacked Fort Royal. White Hill, Fort Royal, And after that, I said, well, these guys, we broke mostly group up, and there was like a certain guys, it was Mike Watson, Terrence Armstrong, and it was Keynes. And I said, well, okay, now
Yeah,
that's sort
Stephen
of steady.
Keynes.
Stephen Keynes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
So we just sat in. I said, okay, well, we're going on the stretch, and I believe someone else took the lead. So I said, well, I'll just sit in. And I think I ran a smart race. So I just sat in. And I was intending to make a surge at Waterloo. But I believe
Yes.
Terrence made a little surge. So I said, okay, well, I'll just sit in on him. And then Terrence made another surge at Burnt House. So I said the same thing. I
Okay.
just sit in. I just sat in. And when he started to go up the hill, and if anybody knew me back then, I could run downhill as fast as I can uphill. I was like one of the best downhill runners on the island at that time.
And that's technique. That's good technique running there.
Yeah, because you don't put your brakes on, you just let yourself go.
Yes.
So I pulled Terrence back in, going off of Burnt House, and we just sort of ran together. I think Mike Watson came along, and it was like the three of us. And then I think Stephen Keynes came back. He joined us back up, and and it was just mainly just sitting into there at that point. And we got into town. We was going up Front Street, and it was the three of us. And
Terrence, Mike,
Terrence, Mike Watson,
Terrence, and yourself.
Yeah.
So now it's a three horse race.
Yep. And I know Mike had some wheels on him. I know Mike can roll. And tell you the truth, I didn't know too much. I know Terrence was a track runner, but
Right.
I didn't, as a track runner, I know they're fast, but usually didn't expect them to do the distance. Track runners don't usually have distance. They got speed, but not distance. But Terrence was still there, so he was a concern, So we went into town. We hit Queen Street, so we just sort of relaxed going up Queen Street, and we got just there by City Hall. And let me tell you the story about why I really attacked. Maybe most people don't know that we were actually sharing water. Most water spots we were sharing water, and I had grabbed some water and I was passing it to Terrence, and Terrence he was in his focus on the finish.
Yeah.
And I passed some water to him, and he didn't sort of ignore me. At that time, I thought he was ignoring me, but looking back, he was focusing on the finish.
Yeah.
And I sort of got mad in a way. And I said, yeah, well, this is the time for me to do my last little search. And I just slowly pulled away going on the first part of the hill, going up to Marketplace there.
Yes.
And when I got the gap, I looked back, I said, I've got a gap now. It's now or never. So either I'm going to succeed or I'm going to fail. So I searched again, and the pace picked up some more, and I just, I'm on the downhill. The downhill is my part. So down to HSBC.
Yes.
I just kept it going. And when I got by the fire station, I was a little tired, but I didn't want them to see that. So I took the turn. I didn't want to see it, because when you look back, people think that you're tiring.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
As we
You're
took the
faltering.
corner, I glanced out the corner of my eye, and I could say the gap. And once I got out of sight, I sprinted over that hill with all I had, right? Got to the top.
Yes.
So when they came around the corner, they expected me to be at one spot, and I was further up. So then I guess for them was looking like, okay, well, first place is gone.
Yeah.
It's now
second.
Second is, they're looking for second.
Real.
They don't want to compete against themselves and burn themselves out and lose that second position. That was my feeling about it anyway.
Yes.
So anyway, I hit the downhill going on Victoria Street, and same thing. I just ran the downhill as fast as I could. Got on to Cedar Avenue, and when I got halfway up, I said, well, this is it. This is it. I just got to pace myself and make it to the finish line. But to tell you what, I got a little bit of cramp on the corner there by the church.
Yes, St. Teresa's.
St. Teresa's Church. Got a little bit of cramp coming. I said, well, let me just relax and change my stride. Just try to, because if I would have cramped up there, it would have been over. I wouldn't have won that race.
Yeah.
And I made as far as the field. As soon as I hit the grass, I guess the conditions cramped there, but it was over there. And so that was
the race had been won.
The race had been won, and it was a great feeling,
Yeah. Well done, 1990. So now everyone knows about Tracy Wright, because you certainly had the right stuff and you displayed it, and very strategic move. So between 1990 and 1998, did you compete in May 24th again?
I did, but I can't remember. I know a few
what was your
times,
highest placing between you winning it for the second time? You remember?
I was probably top three most times. Top three.
Okay.
I think.
Who was now your rivals during the period in which you were?
Terrence Armstrong came back the next year and won it the following year.
Right. He won it 3 years in a row.
Right.
So his
So,
name was certainly in the record books. I think Lamont Marshall or Larry Marshall also.
not when I was running. Not when I was
Okay.
running. Yeah. So I know it was Errol Cormack.
Yeah.
He beat me one year, and that year there
Yeah.
was like myself and Mark Perry. We went on
Yeah.
hard at the beginning, and
Yeah.
that was a bad move on my part because we were racing from start. So when we got to Brantos, I said, "Well, I've got him now."
Yeah.
He dropped off, and I said, "Well, this is me." And I
Yeah.
got to Newstead, and all of a sudden the cramp hit me, and that was the end of my race. And that's the year
What year
Errol
was
Cormack
that?
beat me. I can't
That
remember
was
the
the year he
year.
won.
That's the year Errol
Right. He
Cormack
won.
beat
He
me.
won in 1992. So let
Yeah.
me since we're talking about the period in which you won 1990 and then your second victory in 98. Let's just share who won in between. So you won in 1990.
Yeah.
Mike Watson won it in 1991. Earl Cormack 1992. Kevin Smith showed up on the scene in 1993.
Right.
1994, Brett Ferguson. I think Kevin was
Yeah.
injured.
Yeah.
Then Kevin went on a string of victories, 1995, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Then you won it in 1998.
Yeah.
So I guess Kevin would have been one of your main rivals the years that you probably placed second and third then. Now Kevin was on the scene.
Yeah.
So 1998, just give us a snippet of that race. Give us your memories of
You know
that
what,
race, your
Larry?
second.
I can't remember too much about that race. Really and truly, I don't remember because the only race I remember was the first one, 1990.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, I don't remember too much about that race. I couldn't even tell you who came second that year.
Wow.
There was other races in between, like not the May 24th, but local races that I was
Yeah.
competing in that I was actually winning.
Right.
And
Because you and Kevin, I mean, not to digress, and also I would need to give you congratulations. You also had won the Evian 10 miler, the race that went from Botanical Gardens down to Mid Ocean Club and back. The record shows you won it 4 times. Am I taking any titles away? Did you win it more than 4 times? Is that 4
that's
times you
probably
won the
right.
race?
That's probably right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably right. Yeah, I've won that a few
And that
times.
race was always about a month, 6 weeks before May 24th or so. So
Yes,
was it
nice
a
warm-up.
tune-up? Was it a race you used as a tune-up for May 24th?
Yeah, it was a good warm up to judge like your fitness because 10 miles it's a good distance and May 24th
Yeah.
is actually it's a half marathon, so it's a good, even though the weather's not quite the same. May 24th is usually a hot day, and the 10
Always.
miler has always been just slightly cooler. I can't remember what's the date, so that was April, something like that.
For what? Yeah, the 10 mile, I can remember it always being in April.
Yeah. But it's always seemed to be cooler for that race. So you can do the
Sure.
10 miles and it's the course was a little flatter, I guess. I mean, you got the
Yeah.
balls here, but it was a little flatter. So
Right.
yeah, it was a good warm up for May 24th.
Right. So then as an easy pick, which race you certainly enjoyed the most, certainly 1990. As you said, you don't quite remember what happened in 1998.
Yeah, you
So-
always remember your first race, like your first big race.
Yeah.
It's like your first
So-
car,
So after your second title, did you run May 24th after that, after you had won it for the second time?
Like I don't remember too much of any of the other races in between. I know that
Right.
1 or 2 years I might have been injured, I had no injuries.
Right.
But like I
So
was also competing abroad too sometimes too. So I don't remember all the
with cycling or running?
running. I've actually
Okay.
represented the country in the World Championships. I don't know if you remember
Yes.
that the
Awesome.
cross country championships.
Awesome.
Kevin and myself, and we went to Belgium. We did the half marathon championship, world championships. So yeah,
Excellent.
it's not all events that a lot of people don't know about. That's outside of Bermuda.
Right.
But yeah.
One thing I always thought, I said, Tracy is a great cyclist and a great runner. Did you ever think about mixing those two with swimming and becoming a triathlete?
I did it once.
Did you?
Yeah, I did the triathlon when I used to be at the Naval base up the
Yes.
Annex.
Yes.
And I was training with a friend of mine, a cousin. And I think a great swimmer. So we would train together. And when we first started, I won't give his name, but we would train together. And he had to wait for me for the first couple of times. We go to Amateurs and train, swim to a rock and come back. So the
Sure.
first couple of swims, he was waiting for me. So it's okay, fine. So we got like maybe 2 or 3 weeks in. Then I was waiting for him. So
Interesting.
the every race came up. I said, I'm ready. I'm beating, my cousin. I'm well ahead of him. So we got to the triathlon. We started. I was in line, waiting for the start. The whistle went, and you know how it is. It's a fight. Like you begin triathlon to swim. Everybody's kicking and splashing,
For real.
and I was getting pretty good for the first 5 yards. And when I look, I was like maybe third last. Right? I came out of the water third last, and my cousin was right behind me. And but anyway, long story short, I ended up finishing fourth out of 40 something people. I ended up finishing fourth because my cycle and my run were I had passed everybody on the bike. You got on the bike, pass everybody on the bike, and they run. I just passed the rest of the people. And I ended up coming fourth from 43rd place. But if I was a swimmer, I would have been a great triathlete.
For real. For real.
Yeah.
So that was your Achilles heel, so to speak.
Yeah, that was my first and
Yeah.
only triathlon.
Yeah. Well, at least, you know what? At least you're honest to
Yeah.
know that, hey, maybe the swimming might be just a little bit too much, but
Yeah.
no doubt, Tracy, you showed great poise, great your achievements on the bike and
Mhm.
and running.
Yeah.
Question for you, which do you like? Here we are years later. Which do you consider yourself, a cyclist or runner?
Well, I like cycling. It's a little easier on your joints. Um, they're both competitive sports. Cycling is more of a team sport, and running is more of an individual sport. Running, you run. There's no real drafting. There's no you're out there. You can't range off. You can't hide. Yeah, it's just you and the elements and the people you're competing against. Cycling,
Yes.
you can drop in the field. You can draft. You got teammates, especially. I ride for Venezuela right now for Venezuela, and you can help your teammates by going to the front and doing a little surge, and then once the
Yes.
pack catches you, you can drop to the back and relax because you've done
Yes.
your part. Or you can
Yes.
help help your teammates by just sitting in and
Yes.
keep the other riders from catching your teammate that's going ahead. So it's a team
Right.
sport.
Yeah. Tracy, and during obviously your cycling endeavors, how often have you competed in the Sinclair Packwood Memorial Cycling Race?
Well, I couldn't give you an exact number, but I was one of the first cyclists that actually competed in the first Sinclair Packwood race. Um, there was that actually is still cycling today. Um, yeah, so I couldn't tell you the number, how many I've actually entered. It's been a time where I was cycling, then I stopped cycling, I went into running. So it's been a break in between. But I've probably done about maybe off the top of my head, maybe about 10, maybe 24 Sinclair Packwood races. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And what successes have you enjoyed in that race?
I've never won it. I've never won it. I know people think I have, but I've placed in the. I've always been in the first group when I finished. So the first group may be the uh, first 8 cyclists. I've
Sure.
never really, as a cyclist, never really been a sprinter. I'm more of a, like I said, I'm like running. I'm more of an endurance person.
Yes.
I never really had the speed to say that I can out sprint somebody at the finish in cycling. More endurance. I could be there to the end, but if that person's got the legs, most likely they would have beaten me. Yeah.
Awesome. So as we wind on to a close, if there are any youngsters out there, Tracy, what advice would you give them to them as far as like running or cycling? What any words of wisdom?
Well, I believe sports has kept me out of a lot of trouble. As a youngster, if you're not doing anything, you may get caught up in something that you shouldn't be really into. And sports has really, I believe, directed me in a positive direction instead of a negative direction. So sports has probably saved my life from not being on the streets. As a youngster, I used to live at the White Hill, and I used to hang on the streets with the boys and stuff. But once I got into cycling, I got interested in training. So I was more focused on cycling and keeping and doing races. So I didn't have time for the other stuff. I'll
Yeah.
recommend for parents to get the kids into any sport that's a positive sport. And it just keeps the mind focused on something positive than
Yes.
getting involved in anything else, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, Tracy, we certainly want to thank you for taking time out for this interview. And the public certainly knows a lot more about Tracy having the right stuff and still continuing out there now with your cycling endeavors.
Yeah.
And yeah, we want to wish you all the best in the future. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and that historical perspective about about your May 24 participation and where it all started for you. So thank you again.
Thanks for giving me the call. You know, hopefully, somebody out there would actually hear this and the parents maybe get the kids involved in sports and it may help, you know, help the kids to actually focus on something positive.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Larry.
A new era dawned upon us. Yes, the era was the era of the track runners, and they were led by a young stallion back in 1983, a gentleman by the name of Kevin Pearson. Unfortunately, Larry, I was away at school. I didn't get to see young Kevin Pearson destroy the field.
Yeah, that was a spectacular race. Kevin waited to Barnes' corner, and then he put on the afterburners and pulled away from the pack and went on to win in a course record for the old May 24th course in 1 hour 12 and 22 seconds.
A young track star, Kevin Pearson, unfortunately had to retire due to kidney ailments, but Kevin Pearson at 18 years old left his mark.
Yeah, he said that year everything came together. He had been training overseas, been competing in races. He had set a Bermuda record for the 10K in just under 31 minutes. So everything came into play, and on that day he shined.
We look now at Kevin Pearson's interview, and it was an interesting interview that Larry Dunlop provided because he did it via telephone, and Kevin Pearson called it.
The best thing for me, that was clearly the biggest race for me in terms of both spectators and just sort of fame, I guess, within Bermuda. So that's really the reason it turned out to be the most important for me. I had a great race that day. That was probably the best that I've ever run in my life. Actually, both my parents were extremely important. I really started running when I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, and that was really following in the footsteps of my father, who started at about the same time. So obviously that had a very strong influence on me. I would also say, though, that I had always loved running. I had always wanted to be a runner for as far back as I could remember. So, you know, that was kind of I guess my father ended up being the real catalyst for me. Once he started out running, it was very easy for me to follow. Of course, a lot of people felt that because I had been training primarily on a track, that the different terrain of the May 24th and the length of the race would prove almost impossible for me to overcome. In fact, what I really found is that some of the training that we were doing was so intensive that it actually helped me really in that we were doing not only just regular sort of 4x800 training, for example, but we were also doing a lot of alternating distances, which I think really prepared me tremendously for the hills, because in that kind of a training environment, you're pushing it for first a few minutes and then relaxing, and pushing again, but this time for a longer period, and so on. And that actually ended up preparing me tremendously for that race.
The track era continued. Kevin Pearson followed by a great one, Mike Watson, the man they said who trained with a horse. Speed abounded in Mike Watson as he flew out of Somerset that time in May 24th, and he's won some great ones.
Yep, he has. Mike being a 4 or 5 time winner himself. I have a lot of respect for Mike, and the reason is that Mike's been able to maintain a high level of competition for a very long time. A lot of longevity there. Just much like the great Carl Lewis overseas. I had a chance to speak with Mike, and I asked him what was his most exciting victory.
The most exciting race for me was the first time I won it. Probably the most exciting race for the fans was the last time I won it. Primarily because the first time I won it, I managed to outkick the great Caribbean. And the last time I won it, I won it off sheer guts and determination. So I think that kind of went well with the fans.
Take us back to that race in 1991. I recall Terrence Armstrong was in that race, one of his training partners from school, Mark Perry, Tracy Wright, Brett Ferguson, I believe. The first couple miles was running like around 5-minute pace, per mile pace. Take us back to that actual 1991 victory of yours.
Well, that was an interesting race because in actual fact what happened was we were coming out of Somerset as a group, and Terrence and his schoolmate was there talking and discussing what their plans would be in order to drop the rest of the field. And I was kind of listening in on the conversation, and I heard them say something to the effect of, what you think, we should speed up a bit or ease back? And I kind of was listening and kind of said to myself, well, I don't know if they're trying to psych me out or what. But I said, but I tell you what, I'm going to reverse the situation. And I jumped in on the conversation and I said, look, you guys, probably the best thing to do is speed it up a bit. And they looked back at me like I was crazy or something. And I decided, well, if they're not going to speed it up, I am. And that's when I took command and went on to win the race, more or less. One thing I had on my side at that time, I was strong from pushing a wheelbarrow up a ramp. And it took me, I guess my determination was such that it took me a long time to wear down. And I just kept going right to the end. And at one point, Terrence's friend came back up on me. And a lot of people got excited. But you know, when you're racing, the only things on your mind, especially if you're an aggressive competitor, the only things on your mind, well, now how I'm going to figure out to beat this guy, you know? I wasn't thinking like he's going to beat me. I was thinking this guy's going to have to run to beat me. And again, he came to me talking, what do you want me to help you with the pace? I said, yeah, sure, let's go. And he went in front of me. And it felt to me like he was slowing the pace down. So I took the lead again and sped up a bit, and he didn't respond. And then I went on to win the race.